Over 28 million U.S. taxpayer dollars funding research in China. We take a closer look. Chipmaker Micron planning to build a giant semiconductor factory in New York State. It's set to be the largest in the U.S., complete with up to $100 billion in investment dollars. The U.S. and South Korea holding military drills and demonstrating their precision strike capabilities. The move follows a North Korean missile launch. Ahead of China's National Congress, close to 1.5 million people are detained. Is it just a show of force? And an expert labels social media giant TikTok as a tool to build a totalitarian surveillance state. He breaks it down. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Stephanie Cox, filling in for Tiffany Meyer today. A new report says 28 million U.S. taxpayer dollars were sent to China over 5 years. The funding was earmarked for research. It came from 3 agencies: the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Institutes of Health, and the Department of Defense. Those on the receiving end are Chinese academics and public health institutions. Examples include Peking University and the Chinese CDC. The federal funds were distributed from 2015 to 2021. They supported research covering a wide range of subjects, such as vaccination studies and military drones. U.S. federal agencies regularly provide research funds to foreign entities, including foreign universities and laboratories. In 2020, the U.S. government spent over $1 billion on research collaboration with foreign entities. The report comes from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO. It's a congressional watchdog that examines how the government spends taxpayer money. The report comes at the request of 2 lawmakers, Congress members Elise Stefanik and Michael McCall. In response to the report, Stefanik called the finding troubling. In a statement to the Epoch Times, she said, quote, "China's deception and stonewalling of the truth behind the origins of COVID-19 has led to millions of senseless deaths and trillions of dollars in economic destruction across the globe." A massive semiconductor factory is coming to upstate New York. Chipmaker Micron said Tuesday that it plans to invest up to $100 billion over the next 20 years. Micron said the new factory will be built about 15 miles from Syracuse, and that it will be the largest semiconductor factory in the United States. The factory would create nearly 50,000 jobs. Construction is slated to begin in 2024. The move comes in the wake of the U.S. striving to increase domestic chip production amid a global shortage, and to lessen its dependency on chip production from Asia, especially Taiwan. Right now, the island is dealing with the threat of a possible Chinese invasion. Taiwan manufactures nearly all of the world's cutting-edge chips. These chips are the building blocks required for smartphones, vehicles, computers, and even military gear. The Chinese Communist regime has detained close to 1.5 million people during a 3-month campaign. This, according to China's Ministry of Public Security. Chinese authorities labeled them as crime suspects. Many of the otherwise ordinary Chinese citizens are also dissidents, human rights activists, petitioners, Christians, and Falun Gong practitioners. The Chinese regime's Ministry of Public Security set up a movement called the 100-Day Operation back in June. Officials touted its success at the end of September, saying more than 1.4 million people were detained and 640,000 criminal cases were resolved. The movement comes ahead of the Communist Party's National Congress. The key meeting is scheduled for mid-October. It will decide who will hold positions of power in China. Current leader Xi Jinping is expected to secure an unprecedented 3rd term. Worth noting, it's an unwritten tradition in the Communist Party to make a show of power and intimidate citizens before major political events. The U.S. and South Korea's military sent a volley of missiles Wednesday. The test is an apparent response to North Korea's launch of its own ballistic missile and demonstrates South Korea's precision strike capabilities. Here's more.
South Korean and American troops fired missiles into the sea on Wednesday after Pyongyang launched a ballistic missile further than ever, sending it soaring over Japan for the first time in 5 years. One of the missiles from the South Korean side failed to launch and crashed during Wednesday's drill, but no one was hurt. The Allies earlier staged a bombing drill with fighter jets in the Yellow Sea off the coast of South Korea. According to Seoul, American-made F-15K planes dropped guided bombs on a target off its west coast to demonstrate their precision strike capabilities. The U.S. sent 4 F-16 fighter jets in the drills. U.S. fighter jets also joined their Japanese counterparts in drills on Tuesday. U.S. Air Force Brigadier Patrick Ryder said the exercises aimed to show that Washington and its allies in East Asia were a united force.
These exercises are an opportunity for our military members to work together to exercise those capabilities, to one, send a message that we are prepared, and two, that if we need to fight, we can, and we can do it together.
The missile North Korea tested on Tuesday, the country's 5th missile test in 10 days, appeared to fly over Japanese territory. Analysts say it could be a variant of the Hwasong-12 missile. That was previously unveiled in 2017 as part of what North Korea said was a plan to strike U.S. military bases in Guam. The launch triggered missile warnings across Japan. Residents in Tokyo were told to duck for cover as sirens blared, and an announcer said North Korea has seemingly launched a missile.
Amid growing tensions on the Korean peninsula, it's getting harder for many families to reunite. Households and relatives were separated decades ago in South and North Korea after the Korean War. Until today, only a select few have been able to meet through winning a drawing to participate in rare government-sponsored reunions. This as North Korea bans its citizens from leaving the country to visit its southern neighbor. Let's zoom in.
80-year-old Hwang Rae-ha despairs of ever seeing his mother again after the Korean War separated them in the 1950s. He now lives in a South Korean border town that affords him occasional hazy glimpses of his old hometown in the north.
Maybe she has passed as she's over 100 by now. I want to see her one last time. But she doesn't even come to my dreams. My ancestors are perhaps not letting me see her.
For families separated after the Korean War halted in a truce rather than a peace treaty, the only chance to see their loved ones again is through a lucky draw to participate in rare government-sponsored reunions, or by hiring brokers to arrange a secret meeting in China. But that is too costly for most. In September, the South Korean government proposed a reunion event, but North Korea has not even acknowledged receiving the suggestion. These meetings are usually a barometer of the state of ties between the two sides, technically still at war. This 2018 event was the last reunion arranged by both governments. Since 2000, about 100 families from each side have been brought together briefly. And just a third of roughly 130,000 South Koreans who applied to participate are still alive. Among those who consider themselves lucky is Shim Gu-sop. 4 decades after he was separated from his mother and 2 siblings, Shim reunited with his brother in the Chinese city of Yanji in 1994, helped by an ethnic Korean in China who brought the siblings there from his home in the northeastern city of Hamhung. After his trips to China, the South Korean Unification Ministry entrusted him to a group that arranges private gatherings for separated families. Shim has arranged 47 reunions and exchanged hundreds of letters for separated families. But the global health crisis closed the border between North Korea and China, ending these private contacts, even for those who can afford the $7,000 needed to arrange them. Now Shim is campaigning to let families exchange postcards at least.
10 years from now, this separated family issue won't exist. It's just a matter of time. In 5 years, the separated families will be forgotten by the media and public. We will be forgotten.
잊어버린 대상이 되니.
Taiwan's defense minister says the island will boost its response to Chinese incursions into its airspace. Here's a closer look.
Taiwan is sending out a warning to mainland China. The island's defense minister says any Chinese incursions into its airspace would be considered a first strike.
We initially said we would not make the first strike if they haven't made the first strike, which means firing a projectile or a missile. But the situation has obviously changed.
Right.
And they have drones, etc. So we have changed the definition of first strike to trespassing aircraft, flying devices.
That includes drones.
Right. That will be considered as a first strike.
If their warplanes fly into our airspace, that will count as a first strike.
Correct.
Chiu later added that Taiwan would destroy any Chinese aircraft or vessel that crosses that line, be it first strike or not. He didn't define what the line is and didn't give details on specific actions.
Social media giant TikTok and its connections to the Chinese Communist Party present a threat to U.S. national security. That's according to Geoffrey Cain, an independent investigative journalist and author of a book on China's efforts to build a totalitarian surveillance state. Cain said during an interview with NTD's American Thought Leaders that the TikTok problem is a disaster waiting to happen. Here's more.
Geoffrey, I've wanted to have you on the show ever since you put out The Perfect Police State, which is an absolutely amazing book, and we'll definitely talk about this. Before we go there, though, you just recently were in the Senate giving testimony about social media and national security issues, specifically around TikTok and how it functions in the US and frankly around the world. So tell me, what did you find?
Oh, so much. The problem of TikTok is that it is a national security threat to the United States and to countries outside of China. It is a disaster waiting to happen because TikTok, though the company denies it, is fundamentally obligated to follow the laws of China, the laws that were created by the Chinese Communist Party. So here's how TikTok works. It's an app that it's extremely popular among Generation Z users. It's sort of like the next wave of the next Facebook, the next wave of social media, and anyone can go on there and create a short 12 or 15-second clip of them dancing to music, or showing their cat, or you can load up celebrities and see what they're up to. The app itself seems quite harmless. There's nothing about it on first glance that would look particularly nefarious or evil, but beneath the surface, there is a lot going on here. So TikTok, it was originally created by ByteDance, which was a Chinese company based in Beijing. It had been created by one of the major figures who was deeply involved in the world of Chinese artificial intelligence technology. It received enormous amounts of funding from a major Silicon Valley investment firm, so Sequoia Capital, which was a company that was trying to expand in China. And it wasn't until about 6 years ago, that TikTok was created by this company, ByteDance, through an expansion into the American market. They had acquired a local company, a fellow Chinese company that was developing a music app that was getting popular in America called Musical.ly. And ByteDance decided to acquire this and used it to create what we now know as TikTok. Now here's the first big red flag, and there are many red flags, but the biggest red flag upon this acquisition is that TikTok did not notify the US government about the acquisition.
That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than a year. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A leaked recording revealing someone in Beijing has access to all of TikTok's global data. And at a U.S. Senate hearing, a TikTok manager admits the company does share data with Beijing. Geoffrey Cain breaks down the details. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epic TV. To sign up, click the link below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Stephanie Cox, filling in for Tiffany Meyer.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore ShenyunCreations.com.